environmental impact associated with that change, it's ephemeral. You can't do that. So not all stressors really rise to a level where they're worth worrying about. So when we think about what we want to study, the lowest level that we might want to study is something like what we call a change, which would be a detectable or measurable alteration to the environment. Something that we can say, we did this and it caused this change. Now, whether that change is significant or not, whether it's good or bad, that question's still on the table at this point. Now, if that change really kind of crosses a threshold and gets to the point where we think it's biologically significant, then we call it an effect. And whether a change is an effect depends on the site, depends on the project scale, depends on a lot of different factors. Now, when we think about effects, effects can be negative, in which case we might think of them as an impact, or they can be positive. They can be a benefit. And when we're saying, what do we want to study? We're thinking right now about studying changes when we're at an early stage so we can maximize this and minimize that. Okay, that's the first question. The second question is, why should we study it? Or perhaps a better way to phrase this from my standpoint is, what does a mechanical engineer care about environmental changes? I'll answer that by the end of the talk. I think you'll agree the answer is that there's a really good reason. There's a fun reason to do it. So the first reason that people give for why we should study the environmental effects of marine energy is because there's a regulatory requirement that says you can't cause harm. Basically, the regulatory hammer. That's a reason to do research. It's not a really compelling reason to do research. It's not the reason I enjoy doing research. But, OK, so it's motivation. That's the stick. The carrot here, in my mind, or one part of it, is that if we actually study these things at the pilot scale, while we're small, if we can identify changes, maybe we can figure out ways to scale those up and figure out what the actual impacts will be at a commercial scale. So we can basically put the brakes on a project that maybe would have an impact before that impact's actually occurred.